On the surface, the markets are booming and unemployment remains low. But beneath those top-line numbers, the American economy is quietly fracturing. A wave of bankruptcies, exhausted credit, and mass loan forbearance is suffocating millions of households in specific pockets of the country. This map shows the U.S. states ranked by their level of financial desperation in 2026. The data, compiled by WalletHub, measures the real-time financial distress of everyday households, evaluating every state on a scale from a highly insulated 0 to a highly distressed 100. The yellow sections represent regions that have built an economic fortress. Maine, for instance, sits at a secure score of 14.8 out of 100. These regions are characterized by stable local economies and populations not actively drowning in consumer debt. Looking away from those protected areas, vast sections of the map burn bright red. Of the 11 states registering the highest financial distress scores in the nation, 8 are located in the South. In the center of the country, Kansas hits a peak distress score of 55. This geographic concentration shows a clear divergence between the stable northern states and a deteriorating Sun Belt and Midwest. In 2026, a zip code serves as a primary indicator of financial risk. Understanding how a state reaches the brink of economic collapse requires unpacking the exact anatomy of this distress. This chart breaks down the 100-point index into its specific data pillars. It evaluates state resilience based on average credit scores, the total share of people managing distress accounts, the average number of those accounts per person, bankruptcy filings, and the volume of search queries for debt and loans. In this dataset, a distressed account is defined as one actively in forbearance or where payments are deferred due to financial hardship. The index also tracks algorithmic desperation, late-night internet searches for debt consolidation, and payday loans. This data acts as a real-time predictor of future legal defaults. High scores on this index quantify the aggregate of these metrics, reflecting the level of real-time household panic across a state. For decades, the Midwest meant quiet agricultural stability. Today, data shatters that illusion. Kansas is ground zero for the American bankruptcy crisis. When the 2026 data was finalized, Kansas took the number 1 position with a score of 55, driven by a 12% jump in bankruptcies. The 12% jump in bankruptcies, combined with high search volume for debt relief, indicates that the local consumer in Kansas has reached the limit of their borrowing capacity. Moving south down the Mississippi River, the crisis takes a different form. Louisiana ranks second overall, trailing Kansas with a critical distress score of 53.9. Louisiana's data is defined by one metric. Roughly 12% of all residents, more than 1 in 10 people, have credit accounts actively parked in forbearance. Forbearance acts as a temporary painkiller. It masks immediate symptoms without curing the underlying debt or lowering the principal balance. This chart illustrates the risk. While a borrower skips monthly payments, the principal balance remains intact. Behind that pause, interest capitalizes. When deferment expires, the principal is larger, interest is ballooned, and minimum payments inflate far beyond original levels. This reliance on deferred payments suggests a future wave of defaults, threatening to erase the financial mobility of the local working class. In Florida, a shiny marketing veneer of luxury waterfront condos hides a different reality, a distress score of 52.0. Florida experienced one of the country's largest spikes in consumer desperation. Between the first quarters of 2025 and 2026, the share of distressed credit accounts reached 8.7%. This table highlights the economic friction. Influxes of out-of-state wealth inflated the cost of housing and groceries beyond the earning power of original residents. While cash buyers flooded the market, local workers' hourly wages failed to pace with this rapid regional inflation. Without wage growth to match these costs, households survive on borrowed time, using high-interest credit cards to cover basic groceries in a state they can no longer afford. Florida serves as a cautionary tale of what happens when rapid gentrification outpaces local incomes, effectively suffocating the working class. While the heat map reveals deep regional distress, a geographic location is a risk factor, not a fixed outcome. Navigating a distressed regional economy while living paycheck to paycheck takes a heavy toll on energy, relationships, and future potential. Surviving a wave of regional defaults requires building financial independence from the local economy. You have to decouple your personal balance sheet from the surrounding state. In many Sun Belt states, local incomes no longer naturally pace with regional inflation or wealth migration. Relying on a standard middle-class salary in a red zone is no longer a viable strategy for security. Moving forward requires a fundamental shift in how individuals manage their money relative to their geographic environment. Protecting a household in this environment begins with the aggressive elimination of high-interest liabilities. Refusing to play the forbearance game prevents compounding interest from destroying future savings. Next, a hyperlocal, recession-proof emergency fund is necessary. Standard savings models that rely on national averages often fall short of regional realities. Liquidity must be scaled to the inflation scene at specific local grocery stores and housing markets. This ensures a safety net that can withstand localized downturns. Finally, true security requires completely rejecting the debt-driven consumption that has trapped millions of Americans in the heartland and the Sun Belt. The regional crisis is fueled by attempts to maintain a lifestyle through borrowed capital. True financial security in 2026 comes from operating radically below your means, ensuring that regardless of a state's color on the map, your personal microeconomy remains untouched.